book to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. Right now, we are bum in the year of the Dresden. And we are covering
the Dresden.
And we are covering chapters 12 through 22 of the Dresden Files. So
Summer Night.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't even name the book. Those Summer Nights.
Nights.
Um, by Jim Butcher. But Laura, before we get into it, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So just like before we start, like every time you do the year of the Dresden, I always want to like do one of those like demon voices. I don't know what other people call them, or devil voice or whatever that people do where they're like I always want to say the year of the Dresden that way, and I can't do that with my voice. So apologies, listeners, that you have to hear me butcher that.
Oh, Jim Butcher that?
Huh?
Oh.
I walked right into it.
Oh, what a great day.
So, Hannah, I am back into a series that I absolutely adore. I was waiting for the library to give me The Truth of the Aliki by Moses Ose Utomi, and they were not doing it because the holds are so long for this book. The lines are ridiculous, and it's justified because I just ordered it and read the book in a single sitting, and Forever Desert #2 was phenomenal. I am
Ooh.
obsessed with these books. Moses Ose Utomi. I will never stop talking about these books. These novellas are fantastic. New favorite author series, like completely obsessed. The author's acknowledgement at the end of the second book has me so intrigued because he mentions how the first book was very much like a journey that you're taking with this character who is discovering truths about the world and how the world is not what he thought. The
Mm-hmm.
second book, The Truth of the Aliki, is a situation where the main character is seeking out truths and discovers things, but then maybe shouldn't have pursued things as heavily as they did
Interesting.
because the truths that they were seeking out were maybe a little too like
Mm,
confirmation biasy, you know?
got it. Yeah.
Uh, if that's what I'm trying to say. But these books are so beautiful. Like I don't
Yeah.
know another way to describe them. They have fantastic setting, beautiful, relatable characters. The author doesn't let you get too comfortable because
Yeah.
you know that something's going to happen. And there's just really a deep, meaningful message in the writing. And I really appreciated how the books ask the readers to question the systems we find ourselves in. And then the second book asks us to also question ourselves. So
Oh,
not only
good.
should we be questioning systems, but also like, is this something that I should be pursuing? Is this something that I should be questioning? And I just think that these books need to be all over the place. They need to have their Big Listicless moment. Like they're absolutely fantastic. The author acknowledgments at the end, I'm really intrigued. And I honestly loved how the author was like, the first book's character, Tutu, is someone who I aspire to be. The second
Mm.
book's character is the person I worry I am. And I was like, oh, crush.
That is like every book ever with authors. Sometimes I feel like where
Oh,
they're like, I have this character, they're like my little baby, and I want to be them. And then it's like, this is the character I think I am, and it's not
oh.
great. Like, oh, that's hard. That's so reflective. I love that.
But these books are so deep and meaningful and beautiful. I'm just literally obsessed with them. I'm honestly considering rereading them again because I just love them so much. They're so short and like you can read them in a sitting. Listeners, I know I'm constantly like shouting out, "Oh, read this book, read this book." Seriously, read the Forever Desert novellas. They are fantastic. And I don't know when the third one's going to come out because the second one just came out this year. Moses needs to hop on it because I don't want to wait much longer. This
Very
this
interesting
book
book
needs to.
covers.
They're beautiful, and the way that they're drawn is or painted, I'm not sure how this was created. The way that they're created, the artist did a great job of kind of showing this dual like way to look at things because
Yeah.
the characters are looking at things from different perspectives. And I really appreciate how this is portrayed. And the covers also are bringing it like tying it all in together. They're fantastic books. I I'm obsessed. Listeners need to go out and get this. Like if I this is a recommendation I will stand by 100%. Like I can tell you like, "Oh, go pick up Kissing the Coronavirus," and it's a great book. And you guys be like, "Laura's off her rocker." Like she doesn't know what she's talking about. Like no, like this is a book series that you will not regret reading. They're so fantastic and I'm a forever fan now of Otomi. Like
Good.
I absolutely am obsessed. I added them
Tell me, come on the
immediately to
show. Meet
come
Laura.
on, like please, please. I would die. Like I I would love that. That would be amazing. Please come on. Yeah, I want to cover these on the pod at some point. I think they'd be
Good.
great episodes just because they'd be so reflective and so interesting to talk about. But
Yeah.
yeah, listeners, pick these books up. If you listen to any of my recommendations, make it this one. Listen to this. Okay. So what else have I read? Let me get back to my Goodreads. Oh, the other thing I'm going to talk about was I read Spy Family Volume 11. I just got that from the library.
Oh.
They are letting me get that series back. Uh this
They're
is
not keeping it from you.
yeah, they're not
How dare
trying to
they?
hold it hostage like they are the Forever Desert. How dare they, Libby?
Uh,
But Spy Family Volume 11 by Tetsuya Endo. This is a really popular series. Everybody's reading Spy Family and it's just a ton of fun. I my brain has like been having a hard time processing a lot of things. I've been dealing with some sickness and depression and some stuff like that. So it's just been really hard for me to read a lot of stuff. So I've been doing shorter books and a lot of like graphic novels and manga. And so volume 11 of Spy Family became available to me and this is one where Anya is trying to continue to help her adopted father, Lloyd, in his mission to get an invite over to the Desmond family, who she to their home so he can work on Damien Desmond's father to get some more info for his mission. Um,
mhm.
but Anya, she is, trying to make friends with Scion boy Damien Desmond, and they are in the same class and they end up on this school trip and their bus is hijacked
Oh, of
and
course.
it's just the most hilarious, like bizarre happenings that come about in this volume. And I love the add-in of Anya being a telepath because it just makes things so much funnier when they're like the people hijacking the bus. This is all major spoilers for this volume, but apologies, but you know what? I don't care. Um,
Laura's like, no, we're here to ruin it. I'm
We're
sorry.
here to ruin it. There's an anime. This is a short book. You guys can read it really quickly, and I'm still not going to describe it as well as the book. Reading the book is going to be for you. But anyways, so there's like a moment where the hijackers threaten to put a bomb on Anya because she's like trying to be tough and save everybody so she can be a hero. And they're like, "Get over here. We're putting this bomb on you so then you'll be quiet." And then she can tell by their thoughts that they're like, this is a fake bomb. We don't actually have a real bomb.
Oh, God.
Hopefully this will shut her up. And then she's immediately calm because she's like, oh, phew, it's not even real. And it's so funny because they have like all the other kids on the bus just terrified. And the other
Oh,
kids on the bus are like, how is Anya so brave that she's wearing a bomb and she's not scared? This is so weird. And then Scion boy, Damien, decides to be brave and he ends up getting a fake bomb too.
this
But
is
he does
amazing.
freak out. And Anya he and Anya have this like back and forth of like the two differences in them where she knows what's going on and is like, yeah, it's just a fake bomb, I'm not too worried. But she's not going to tell anybody because it would reveal that she can read minds.
Right.
And also, maybe get them in more trouble with the people who have hijacked the bus. And then he is frustrated because he's like, why can't I be as calm and collected as her?
Oh God.
It's the funniest thing. I
This is
just really appreciate the humor in these manga editions. They're just so fun.
honestly, I love it because you find it so hilarious. Like you're cracking yourself up right
It's really funny.
now.
It's really funny. Like I really like these just for the humor in them. And the anime, I started watching that and it's really I read all the issues that are out. Like I know how it goes, but still when things happen in the anime and Anya especially like has a moment, I'm cracking up because it's just ridiculous. It just like the whole concept of it all is just very funny of like a spy who has to like create a fake family for this mission and he just by chance adopts a girl who's a telepath and just by chance enters into a fake relationship with a woman who is an assassin. So it's like all of these things together. Their dog just happens to be able to see into the future. Like all of these things like just too perfect and just really funny. The
Good.
author just really plays off the whole like, what if all of these coincidental things happened? Uh-huh. And
Oh,
it's just really cute. I really like it.
oh, good.
And then as far as watching, I've been watching Spy Family, but also The Good Place. I'm still watching The Good Place. That's like my background show, but
Hmm.
I really forgot like how deep that show got towards the end, where things become like very much about like the meaning of life and
Yeah.
how we need to be, trying hard to be kind to one another and how kindness is a prevailing trait that people need to be looking out for. And I really forgot that it kind of turned from the comedy that it started out in and became such a deep show. I
Yeah.
and I think maybe it's because like I haven't rewatched this one as many times, so I'm more familiar with like the beginning seasons
Hmm.
where it is very much like the the shock of it all of what's
Right.
happening, and you forget as you move along that the show actually does really become pretty sweet and really tie into the relationships a lot and how we're all connected and we need to all be looking out for one another and
Hmm.
all be trying to improve ourselves to in turn im improve quality of life for other people. And
Yeah.
I just I'm surprised that I forgot about these things because I think they're important. I think it's probably a main reason why people are so connected to this show still, why people list it as like a favorite show. And I appreciate that they are willing to do those type of things because there's not a lot of like shows that are on that are willing to try and be funny, but at the same time be like, but kindness is important and helping people who are less fortunate is important.
Right.
And, thinking you're awesome and writing a book about yourself that's 600 pages and trying to sell it in the afterlife for $65 is not awesome. And you didn't read your book or have any reflective moments. So, uh, just self-awareness and kindness as a high quality trait that people should have, I think are
I do think it's
really nice.
helpful with like, because knowing Mike Schur is the one who wrote this, he, was a writer and producer of The Office.
Hmm.
He was the director and writer and executive producer
Parks
of
and
Parks and
Rec.
Rec and Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I feel like those are sometimes like a lot of people love those earlier works, but The Good Place feels like it's almost his like magnum opus of like, here is what I have learned throughout my time. And I have this like 4 season, 4 story arc. And it feels like it's the greatest representation of like him as an artist. And I feel like it
I
never gets
agree with
enough
that.
credit. Yeah.
I agree with that because I don't think it gets enough credit. I don't think people talk about it enough. I think that people like put The Office up on such a pedestal,
Hmm.
but it's very much a show where every time I rewatch The Office, like there's just the funny moments, but I get it gets cringier and cringier for me
Hmm.
every time I watch it, and I become less and less connected to the characters, even ones who were beloved characters for me previously. Each rewatch disconnects me from them more,
Yeah.
and it may be because I am myself growing as a person.
Oh my gosh, it's almost like we are
Well,
different
well,
people than we were in
well, well, well,
2005.
I grew since high school. Are you
It's
kidding me?
shocking. Uh,
Well,
but
that's
yeah.
shocking revelation. But yeah, I do think you're right though that this is just like a great example of his own journey and what he kind of wants to put out there, like the messaging that he wants to put out there and how he's like, you know what, I was involved with The Office, like that was a thing.
Yeah.
I was Mose. That was very funny. But then, as he moves on and the messaging changes, I do think that it's interesting that The Good Place is kind of like the work that was the most recent. I
Hmm.
believe it's the most
Yeah.
recent. Uh, and how
Rutherford
that.
Falls technically, but
Oh, I
it's
didn't know
not.
he was involved with Rutherford Falls.
Yeah, I pulled up his Wikipedia page,
And
and
that would still fit to me.
he was a co-creator of Rutherford Falls, which I do think, yeah, you're
I
right, it
like
does fit.
Rutherford Falls.
Yeah.
I think that messaging also fits in with that too. But yeah, I just really appreciate shows that are emphasizing kindness and still can be funny and call out like, oh no, that's not actually being funny. That's being mean.
Right.
And I like that. And I'm appreciating this rewatch a lot more than I thought I would, where it's becoming less of a background show at times because I'm getting kind of drawn in and I'm like, oh, I forgot that this happened.
Right. I know. I love that show.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
lot of fun.
Fun fact about Mike Schur that I did not know.
Yeah.
He is married to Regis Philbin's daughter.
Mm, that's strange.
Isn't that so strange? She was a writer from the OC. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, that is
random.
random.
Uh,
I did not know that at all.
I know.
Um, I was going to mention though,
Before I was like, hey, Regis Philbin. Like,
that the acting in The Good Place, I feel like we hear about like Kristen Bell all the time, and Jamila Jamil is fantastic, and obviously, she's got that podcast I Weigh, which is awesome, and I love that podcast. She's great, but Darcy Carden
oh,
needs
I
more
love Darcy
credit for
Carden.
her role, and also Manny Jacinto. Like the two of them are not credited as much as they should be in that show, and they are fantastic. Like Jason Mendoza and Janet are fantastic characters, and they could not be played by anyone else. Like those two play those characters so, so, so well.
Oh yeah. I adore Darcy Carden. I love like
Yes.
just hearing about the episode where she had to play all the characters and like what that did to her psychologically. Like it lets you know that like, hey, acting
She
is
that was
incredibly
so good.
difficult. And she said like it was kind of hard on her. Like she was like, yeah, I was like a shell of myself because you're just acting all
Hmm.
day and you're trying to like be in the moment with all these different
Yep.
people. And she was like, I just remember like being really sad that week and like sitting in my car and eating like a sandwich crying, and she
Oh,
was like, but like it came to be like such a beautiful moment, and like it was great to see like the production of it. And I do think sometimes we don't give actors and actresses enough credit because
yeah.
everyone's like, well, I could do that, and it's like, well,
No,
could
you
you like
couldn't.
I,
I could
it's
not do that.
as someone who like had a performance-based job, which like being a lawyer is performance-based, like you
Okay.
have to be able to ask questions in a certain way, you have to present yourself in a certain way, you have to like listen and react in the moment and have like certain affectations that work especially in front of a jury. Like it takes a lot out of you to be on all the time, and I don't think people give those types of like, and that's the same like you work in customer service, like you
Hmm.
have to present yourself in a certain way all the time,
Hmm.
and people do not understand like the drainage that like comes with that, and like how much it like
Yeah,
hits you in
where
anxiety or like your
people who
emotions.
work in customer service or like retail or in the food service, any kind of service industry, I think know that there's like a voice that you
Hmm.
put on. This is commonly talked about with in
Oh my God,
Reddit
how high
Reddit
are
circles.
you? Yeah,
And
like
like people find it shocking when I tell them like through work that I'm an introvert because I am very good at customer service where
yeah.
if I'm in my customer service mode, I can really turn it on and can maintain a conversation with people, can ask questions, that type of thing. But it is incredibly draining. And
Yeah.
if you have a bad interaction with one person, it really can affect your ability to maintain that customer service persona or service persona. And you're expected to maintain like a high level, for each person. So it's
Right.
difficult. It's really difficult. And acting, I think, like you said, is similar in a similar vein where you're trying to do this job. And especially this, where you're trying to portray other people, multiple people, that can be
Mhm.
so draining to someone.
Right. So
But Darcy
interesting.
Carden is hilarious and beautiful and talented, and I love her. And Mandy Jacinto, hilarious. Like, not enough credit given to this character, I think, because like everyone's just like, "Oh, Jason Mendoza, dumb." It's like, no, this is very good acting,
I know. He's so great.
very good acting. So I really have been enjoying this rewatch. I don't know why I've not rewatched this show as much. Maybe because it did get too deep, and I need more of the like, no,
That's
brainless.
fair.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then the other thing that I watched was, well, I've been watching the Olympics. I've been
Uh,
enjoying the Olympics quite a bit. And I have Peacock, so I've been watching some of like the sports that they don't show on TV.
mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed like archery. And I I'm so impressed by some of these athletes. Like the archery was really fun to watch. And I liked being able to see on Peacock when because in the United States on like primetime television, where they show the Olympics, they're only showing the US and only like
Yeah.
specific moments, and you mostly get gymnastics and swimming at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
If you stay up later, you can get some other sports, but like I need to go to bed. So I was watching archery and I was also watching table tennis and what was the other one I was watching? Oh, skateboarding. And they were a lot of fun. And I'm like, am I a sports fan now? I think I am because these people were so impressive. Like the women's table tennis, I like I don't think I know the rules to this anymore. I thought I knew how to play this game, but apparently not. It looks so much harder than I remember. Like they're serving off their heads.
Oh,
What? This is amazing. And the way that they are so energized and so supportive of each other from like a competitive standpoint is really heartening. I really appreciate that, seeing how kind they are to each other, where like after match it's not like someone's going to be like screaming and throwing something and like having a tantrum. Like they go over, they're cordial, they hug, or
yeah.
they're thrilled to be able to compete against each other even. And I think that's
Right.
just such like a good sportsmanship attitude to have, that and to see on television too, where like millions of people are going to be watching these events. So I really think that's great that they're so good about this. And maybe on the inside they're like screaming like,
Well, the funny
but
thing is I like watching the Olympics. There are certain ones where, like, you're right, gymnastics and swimming, like, a lot of times your entire life is revolving around, like, oh, I'm training, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. But that can't be every single Olympic sport because there are many
mhm.
Olympic sports. So, like, I was looking this morning at skeet shooting because it was up while I was sitting down watching it. And I had the moment of like, well, this is just someone's weekend activity where now they're going to be like, well, I'm an Olympic gold medalist. And they're like, what for? And they're like, skeet shooting. But it's not like your
Mhm.
entire life. Like you likely have a day job where you're
Right.
like, oh, yeah, I just do this. And so I do think that that's fun to think about where it's like, well, not everyone where they're like, this is make or break. This is my intent, make it or break it, aka the ABC Family TV show that I used to watch a lot.
Was that about gymnastics?
It was about gymnastics. You have
Okay.
to make it or break it. And they
I knew it was either
had
that or dance.
a character who was like from the other side of the tracks who was supposed to be the main character, and then she got pregnant in real life, and she was like, yeah, so the thing is I really want to have my child. And so they were just like wrote her off the show because she got teenage pregnant. And it's like, okay, sure.
Random.
Random it had a wild cast, but sorry, I'm off on a tangent.
But
But
really,
like,
though, the athletes are interesting, and I think it would be nice to kind of hear more about some of the sports that I think the U.S. is very much like, we're the United States. We don't care about anyone else, which I hate because I want to see some of the stories of some of these other athletes.
yeah.
And you have to go on Peacock to be able to see these people just compete.
Well,
So,
and like I sorry, not to go off on a tangent, but I already have. Like we were also watching it where they were talking about how many Olympic gold medals like the Americans have won, and I'm like, well, America's really big. Like if you
mhm.
think about it, America is
We have a
very
huge pool
large.
of people to
We
choose
have a
from.
huge pool, and like a lot of the sports are different regions of the United States where it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, water polo, we have the Northeast, like
Hmm.
surfing, you have Hawaii and Canada. Like we
Yeah.
have a broad swath of like geographical areas where there are things you are interested in different geographical areas that like the Olympics has broad like ownership of like a certain sport that you could be like, oh yeah, we have a skeet shooter, we have people who
Hmm.
love guns. Like it's just very specific. And so I feel like we always get too much credit for being like, no, we're just a big country with a large pool of applicants.
Well, that's just like recently, I think it was just last night that Sha'Carri Richardson competed in the track finals for the 100-meter dash, and Sha'Carri was silver, but I'm trying to think, women's 100-meter. Let me look this up because I want to get the woman's name right. Julian Alfred from St. Lucia was the gold medalist in this, and everyone was kind of, I think, predicting that Sha'Carri Richardson would win this, and
Mm.
it was a really close race, but Julian Alfred won, and St. Lucia. This was the first gold medal
Yeah,
that St.
I heard
Lucia
that
had
ever.
ever one.
Yeah.
And they showed a video on Peacock of the people in St. Lucia watching this on like a big screen, and they were thrilled. They're all so excited, like screaming because they finally had an athlete win a gold medal for them. And I think it's moments like that that we need to be highlighting more, and the importance of like, you know, like you were
Why
saying,
this is
Hannah, that
important.
why this is important. Yeah, because we're getting to see and learn more about people, and people are represented there, which is fantastic versus
Mhm.
like, not that the other Olympians from the United States didn't work hard, but they have so many more opportunities to even get to the Olympics
Right.
versus, and I'm again not taking away from
No.
the other Olympians' experience. Like
Laura is
I
saying
can't even
she
run.
could do better than anyone else.
No, I can't run at all. So like I fall going up two stairs. So like there's no way I could compete in any of these events. Olympians are such hard workers, but I think it's really interesting and fun and cool to see countries where they're winning their first gold medal and
Hmm.
we're getting that representation. So I was like kind of thrilled that they were so happy and to see that too. And again, it was a thing where I'm sure Sha'Carri Richardson, there was a lot weighing on her and everything, and that was a hard race, and she was really gracious about it too at the end where she, and I don't know beyond like what they showed on Peacock, but uh they went over and hugged each other and they took a photo together and everything. It wasn't a situation where people were like screaming, crying, that type of thing. People seemed to be very gracious to the other
Yeah.
competitors, and I'm glad.
Yeah. Agreed.
The other thing that I'm going to talk about briefly, but I won't like go super in depth on it. I watched on Hulu Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is the new Planet of the Apes movie,
Laura's been
and
super excited about this.
I actually love Planet of the Apes
She
stuff.
does.
They're so problematic, but like, I get it. I get the criticisms of them and everything, but I really liked the trilogy that was done with Andy Serkis, and
Hmm.
this does not have Andy Serkis involved. And people were like really criticizing, like, oh, you can tell that the emotions aren't there in the apes, and it's like, can you? I don't know. The CGI looks beautiful. It's like beautiful CGI. I think this one to me was just more like there wasn't as much action as previous
Mm,
ones, where I think previous movies there was a lot of action, and this one I believe is probably set up for another two movies, which
of
is what they're
course.
trying to do. They just need to keep making the same stuff all the time. We can't handle new things. Our brains can't handle new things. But Hannah just gave me a look, listeners.
Well, I mean, I'm thinking about the wonderful movie of Twisters.
can't handle anymore.
Where
But
they're like, new IP, no thank you. You have to have another IP that it's a springboard off of. So
right.
yeah.
But yeah, I think this one, I don't think it was a bad movie in terms of like the Planet of the Apes universe, but I do think it was maybe a little more boring compared to other
Mm.
ones just because it's very much like a let's set the stage here because we've got a new cast of characters and we need to introduce a fascist chimpanzee.
Fascist chimpanzee.
Well, I don't know what else
Oh
you
my
would describe him
God.
as. He's
No,
got to be a fascist.
I mean, he does. I'm sure he is, but that is hysterical. Like, just the thought of a fascist chimpanzee. Oh, thank
I
you.
mean, I think that's what he is. But yeah, it was, I would say it's okay movie. It's not one that I'm gonna be like, let's rewatch this a million times. Like the Andy Serkis trilogy, like I have rewatched those. Like I like those movies
Yeah.
quite a bit. And this one I was just like, nah, I'll watch the next one when it comes out, but I don't know that I'll be like, woohoo, let's rewatch this one. It was just okay.
Okay. Good to know.
I didn't make it to the theater to watch it, and I'm not that upset over that. But like if I would have made it because it was like I think it came out in March, didn't it?
I'm positive, but who
I think
knows?
it came out in March and that was like the height of like all of my baby goats being born. So I had like all these movies that I had wanted to go see in March and I didn't make it to any of them because baby goats require a lot of work. So I was
You're
just like,
so
well,
cute.
sorry, movies. I don't get to come and watch you at the theater, even though I really like doing that. But yeah, I I think I would have still gone to see this at the theater if I would have had the time, but I just didn't make it. And now Hulu gave it to me, so that's fine. But yeah, it was an okay movie. Not great, not terrible, just okay
So
with
you're
all of
saying
the
it's a
same.
movie. It felt
It's a
like a
movie.
movie.
It felt like a movie. And it's got all of those same problematic things that you would expect out of Planet of the Apes.
Mhm.
So there you go. Hannah, what have you been reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I picked up a Sylvia Moreno Garcia book to get me out of a reading slump, and then I went further into the slump. But I did finish it because I went on a vacation for 4 days
Yay.
up to a remote cabin with no internet.
Yay.
Um, and I read like a book and a half while I was there, so that was exciting. So I read Velvet Was the Night. This is a little bit of like a Sylvia Moreno Garcia's like look at historical fiction. It's more like noir. So it's about 1970s Mexico City. It follows this character who I cannot remember her name. Maita. She's a secretary who's like living in she's in her 30s, and of course this is the 1970s, so she's an old maid. And she just like wants a little bit of spice of life. She loves like reading Secret Romance, which is like a romance graphic novel. And her next door neighbor asks her to watch her cat and then disappears, and she
Hmm.
has to go like find out what happened because Maita wants her money for watching the cat mostly.
Who gets paid a lot of money to watch cats?
And so
I need to switch careers.
right. It's well, she's like she got like the girl to triple her fee and everything, and like because she knew the girl came from money and she needs to like fix her car. And so then we find out that this girl is involved with this like communist party. And she has some like suspicious photographs, and she's being hunted by this man who's in a like group called the Hawks, who are like paid to kind of sow like unrest and like try to break up communist activities. And they're like not affiliated with the government, but also affiliated with like the CIA maybe and things like that. So it's a little bit more of subterfuge. And it's based on like historically accurate things. So I thought this book was good. Again, I feel bad because like it was supposed to be like a quick, easy, light read, and then it took me like 3 weeks to finally get through it. So there were parts of the book that like I just wasn't there for or I wasn't feeling as much. Um, but I don't think it's the book's fault. I think it's a perfectly fine novel. I kind of went into it like Sylvia Moreno Garcia does like a bunch of different genres. She's a quick read. She has some winners, some not so good ones, so I wasn't expecting too much. But I was sad
How
that
many
it
of hers have you read?
I've read three. So I have read I read The Beautiful Ones, which was pretty good. That was like her magical realism. I have read The Gods of Jade and Shadow, which was another like magical myth. And then this one is my third one of hers. So I think that they're like consistent 3-star reads for me. I don't think they're like the most amazing books you're going to read, but like
Hmm.
it's kind of an old reliable. I know that you've read Mexican Gothic.
Hmm.
And did you like that one? I can't remember.
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay. So like you
Also, I
liked that
think
one.
I'm kind of like in the party of yeah, good but not fantastic.
They're never fantastic. I didn't really get it thinking, oh, I wanted a fantastic novel. I wanted it thinking like, oh, I just kind of wanted an okay novel.
Yes, you're the beautiful
Um,
ones and Velvet was the night, and then Gods of
yeah.
Jade and Shadow. Okay,
Yes. So those are the three I've read. So collectively, you and I have read four of her books, and they're old
all the popular
reliables
ones.
for
Yep.
fine books.
Hmm.
I never think that they're the most amazing thing I read, but I also think that they're more commercial, and I think that that's okay. So I read that one. And we're recording twice this week, so I will save my other book for later. But for watching, this is from last week. I forgot to talk about it. I did go see the movie Twisters,
Yes.
which was so bad it was good. Like it went all the way
God.
around to good again. Did this movie make
Was Glen
sense?
Powell in that?
No. Glen Powell was in that, and I said on record, I do not think Glen Powell is super hot, but I don't think he's super attractive, but I am super attracted to him. Like something about his face
I don't
structure just isn't for
understand
me.
that, I guess, because I look at him and I'm like, I get it.
I don't. I think it's something about like he has a little bit of like I don't know. It's something with his face. It's not really for me. I don't know, but like he is super like he's charismatic and everyone's talking about that. Like he's a super charismatic guy. So you're just watching
I
Glen
think
Powell be
when I look at
charismatic.
him, like you mentioned that he's like forgettable. I think that that is very true because he's just like a very hot, forgettable white guy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's more the camp that I fall in where like if I see him, I'm like, I get it. He's hot. But I
You
can
look
forget about him in
away.
an instant.
Yeah, you look away and you're like, that man existed? I don't understand.
Like, oh, he
Um,
was in Twisters? Oh, okay.
so he was in Twisters. This movie, Laura, this movie is ridiculous. Like
What's it about?
it's about Twisters. So imagine a movie where it's Jaws, but the Jaws are sharks or are Twisters.
Were
Like
there sharks in the Twisters similar to
they're no,
Sharknado?
no.
Oh,
But like
lame.
the funny part about this movie is everyone around them lives in Oklahoma, and all of the news reports are like, this is a once in a lifetime storm event. Cover yourselves, because obviously they have
It's
to
in
be
the middle
tracing.
of Tornado Alley, you
Yeah.
dolts. Like,
And
obviously, it's not
so
a once
like
in a lifetime event.
but they're like, no, 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 no. This is once in a lifetime because so many twisters are popping up, which is important because they're following these twisters around. But when I tell you that every single civilian who is on the ground acts like they've never seen a tornado before, and you're like, this is not accurate. What's
They're in
going on?
Oklahoma. You know they're standing out on those porches watching these
I know,
things.
but like at one point, there's like this has been like cities have been ravaged at one point, and then all of a sudden, like the big showdown comes, and there's just a farmers market going on, and no one is acting like a twister could show up at any moment. And at one point, they're trying to get people inside, and like some person is trying to grab their stuff to take it with them. And I made the joke in the theater of I was like, "No, my wares! Like, I have to take them with me." And I'm like, "You live in Oklahoma. You know what's going on." Also, very funny in this movie. There's literally in the first scenes, I'm not ruining anything. This is all just like random
Just
stuff. And
ruin
again,
it. It's fine.
guys, I liked this movie. I think everyone should go watch it. It's a wild time. It's hilarious. But like at the beginning of the movie, there is a moment where they're trying to see if they can use like diapers like material, so sodium polycrolate or whatever, beans in a tornado to reduce its intensity. So they want to like disperse a tornado,
Okay.
and they have to use like the Dorothy contraption of tornado singular movie to like test the strength and velocity of the tornado. And they're like, why do we need this? And one of the characters is like, for data. And I'm like, these are scientists. Like, do you want to know who cares about scientific data? Mostly scientists. Why are they all acting like he's just a big old blowhard because he wants them to get data? It's very confusing. And there's just so much tornado trauma that they're dealing with. There is a YouTuber with a heart of gold who is Glen Powell, and his name is Tyler, but no, it's Glen Powell, and he's a tornado wrangler. And this woman has like a sixth sense for tornadoes because she is a great scientist, but it's like, but she's never doing any scientisty things, and she's just yelling about her tornado trauma. And like some of the stuff doesn't make sense where it's like, well, the tornado wranglers have tools like drills that keep the truck down in the ground, but then the scientists with a lot of money don't have that. And it's like, why wouldn't they have that? That seems pretty important. What are you talking about? You guys can share industry information with each other like that. It's so funny. It's so bad, Laura.
So you're
I
telling me that this handled severe weather incidents terribly.
it it was like they were like, well, what if Jaws but tornadoes?
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
but Paul Shear has a cameo in it,
I love
so
Paul Scheer.
I love him so much. It's so
Can I tell
exciting to
you
see
a
him.
show that actually does handle tornadoes well, and that's Superstore?
Excuse
And the way
me,
that they predict it,
tornadoes was handled perfectly in Twister, so I don't know what you're
yeah,
talking about.
it's not. But the way that Superstore does it is like many episodes before they have the tornado event in the show. Glenn, in that show, Glenn, the manager, says, "Yeah, we failed tornado preparedness. This place is a ticking time bomb." And then several episodes later, there is a tornado that hits the store. It's very traumatic for a bunch of the people
Yeah,
there, and they end up in like episodes after they're looking for people that have gone missing. They have to rebuild the store and everything. And then Dina is like literally dealing with PTSD from all of it and has to
yeah.
create like a bunker that she's worried about every single time a storm comes through. She's trying to get people into this bunker to save them. And I'm like, that is so realistic in terms of like a corporation not getting their
Yeah.
building set up for a severe weather event and the way that people would react in the situation or not know where to go and how they have to rebuild their store and everything. And it's a big hoopla to get a celebrity there. And like, yeah, that is probably one of the best representations of like the Midwest
But
and
another
dealing with
thing,
severe weather.
but another thing, Daisy Edgar Jones, who I saw on TikTok someone describe as still British even when she's not, she plays someone from small town Oklahoma,
Oh
and
my.
she has to talk in a southern accent. And Glenn Powell, he's like, "Where are you from, little lady?" And she's like, "I'm from New York City." And then he keeps calling her like big city, and I'm like,
Why
"You
does she
know
have a
she's."
southern accent?
I'm just like, because she grew up in Oklahoma, but she now lives in New York City. But I'm like,
Ugh.
sir, you hear her voice with your ears. Like, even if she grew up in a big city somewhere in Oklahoma, it was somewhere in the South.
Is
Stop
Glenn
treating.
Powell also doing an accent?
I mean, I think maybe if I think
I
about it
think
hard
so.
enough,
I
he
don't
might be.
remember.
I don't remember because both of them are kind of in and out of it. Like they can't help it. And
Interesting.
then they have famous philanderer, Anthony Ramos as one of the characters.
As in, like, the son of Lin-Manuel
Yes.
Miranda and Hamilton.
Yes, exactly. So he's in there
Okay.
too, and he has an accent that I could not place if you paid me. I was like, what accent is that? I don't understand. So the accents in this are also very funny.
I
I
always
don't
wonder
know.
how people learn accents and then at the same time, like, who approves the accent that they go with for a show or a movie? Because sometimes people have such bad ones that I'm like, who told you that you could do this? Like,
I don't.
who said that was the way to go? Like, where was the direction here?
Who knows, Laura? But it also had one of the guys where he looks like someone you should know, but you also don't know because why would you? And apparently he's going to be Superman very soon. And he was just in
Another
there
Superman?
randomly. We have another Superman coming out in 2025.
Oh my
A
gosh.
reboot of a reboot of a reboot. With
How many
Rachel
more can we
Brosnahan
handle?
as Lois Lane. Um, yeah,
Okay,
I mean, I don't make the rules. I just deliver the information. But that guy looks like he would be a Superman person. Just
really.
stands there stoically,
I'm
looking
looking now.
a little rigid.
Superman new movie.
Um,
Um,
his name is David Corenswet.
he looks similar to the Smallville guy.
Yeah, I would say very true. I mean, I was partial to that Superman, so I get it. But you look
Mhm.
at him and you're like, you look like you should be in something. And he's been in a couple things, but not enough where, yeah.
You know
Um,
how there's been all this like Deadpool and Wolverine talk because that movie just came out?
oh yeah.
I do really enjoy all of the things where people are like, there's been three Spider-Mans, this many X-many uh amounts of Batmans, this many Supermans, but how many Wolverines? Only one. And Hugh Jackman still looks fantastic. And I'm like, no argument.
Oh.
He still looks great.
And apparently he played Aram in Wheel of Time. So, um,
David Cornsweet did?
yeah. Oh,
Interesting.
wait, no, no. I'm looking at Daryl McCormick, who was also in Twisters. That's on me. He was
Oh,
Aram. That makes more sense. I was like, I don't remember that white
I don't
man, and it's
recognize this
because
guy from.
that's another man. Um, sorry, I was trying to sneak on David Cornsweet to see what else he was in because he was in something called Lady
Yeah,
of
I
the
don't
Lake.
recognize any of these things that he was in.
He was
Hmm.
in a Natalie Portman vehicle called Lady in the Lake. Don't know what that was about. It's
The
an Apple
politician
TV.
looks familiar. That looks
That
like
was a Netflix one with
yeah, the Ben
Ben
Platt was in that, but I
Platt.
don't
Yeah.
remember this guy in it.
And he
That
was
was a
in
very
11
forgettable show
episodes.
for me, honestly.
I mean, I don't blame you. I watched like the first episode and then I was like, I'm good. And so I
Hmm.
just walked away. So yeah, I watched Twisters and it was great. I also watched The Murdaugh Murders, which was a wild ride, which you said you had seen.
Yeah, is that about the Murdaugh family? They're
Yeah.
all the lawyers and everything, and you just want to punch all of them in the face because they're so pretentious and ugh,
But also like so southern and not that pretentious.
everything
Like
everything's been given to them
it's
and ugh.
all like gilded sheen, honestly, once you look closer. So it's called The Murdaugh Murders. It's a Southern scandal. It's a true crime television series on Netflix, and it has had two seasons. And in the first season, the first episode is about this girl who is killed during a boating accident, and it was due to one of the sons, Paul Murdaugh, driving while incredibly intoxicated to the point where like friends were trying to fight him for the wheel and he didn't take it away. And then this boating accident occurred and this girl goes missing and they couldn't find her body. And immediately, like, even in his drunkest state, like, he starts blaming one of the friends, saying that it was their
Mhm,
fault. And he constantly, like, he had a very powerful family. They had been like the district attorney for the town for years and years and years, and they kind of had covered up other issues he had had and other drunk driving incidents, or incident at least he had had. And so they kind of don't get away with the cover up on this. Like, the dad tries to say that it was this other kid, that he's going to help him get out of it, da 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 da, da, and it's all to save face. And then we find out that the dad obviously murders this son as well as his wife because of the stuff that's coming down. And through it, you also find out that the dad had a opioid addiction, and he was embezzling lots of money. He had embezzled an insurance claim in the like $3 million area for a housekeeper who died while on their property. He said
mhm,
he was going to file suit for the sons, and they never saw a cent.
mhm,
And so just like a lot of evil stuff. And then he attempted to convince one of their friends to kill him for insurance monies for their other son. Um, and like when the friend didn't, he tried to like wrestle with him and like tried to say that it was a an assassination attempt, pretty much to get like the heat off of him after he had pretty much like annihilated his family.
mhm.
um it's a very interesting show to like hear all this stuff happening, because there's a lot of moving parts to it. And I thought some of it was handled really well, where like they have the person who was dating the girl who, had died at the time. They hadn't been together very long, but they grew up together. And I thought like he seemed to be a pretty even keeled person to have on the show, where he was like, yeah, that was like one of my close friends. And I thought he could come back, and like no one deserves to die. And like, yes, I was mad at him, but that didn't mean that I didn't think he was like redeemable. And I was like, wow, that's like actually, um, and then they had the ex-girlfriend of the kid, who turns out he was very abusive when he had been drinking,
Mhm.
and it was not a very good relationship. And like they also had her parents, and I thought they did a really effective job with the parents, like saying like, we still don't know everything that went
Yeah.
on, she has not told us everything. And then they bring up like ongoing investigations that are still in the works, such as the murder of a 19-year-old nursing student who he was rumored to have been in a relationship with the oldest boy. Just like a lot of stuff that went on. And I think the documentary, a lot of Netflix documentaries like to go towards the like fantastical sometimes.
Hmm.
And I thought this one, there were some people who were like, well, we think that there's something like they pushed the housekeeper, but it seems like, well, the housekeeper likely died of natural causes. Like it was an accident where she tripped over the dogs. But like the actual important thing is the fact that the dad embezzled a $4.3 million insurance policy from her sons who were actually supposed to get help. Um,
The thing I've noticed about like a lot of Netflix crime documentaries is that Netflix is trying to do what they do with their reality TV shows,
yeah.
and it's they want to have a huge viewership, so they have to
Mhm.
add drama into it. So rather than just presenting the facts, which is still very effective in a
Yeah.
documentary, like just present the facts. This is a really out there situation and case, just and family, just present the facts and people will be interested. But what they like to do with their documentaries, and it sounds like you didn't think they went too wild with this one,
No.
and I didn't think so either, but like Making a Murderer is one that
Oh, the
I like to
Making a
think of,
Murderer one. Yeah.
where they do this with other true crime documentaries too, not just Making a Murderer, but they almost make it a situation where they're like, let's get the viewer involved and see what they think.
Hmm.
And it's like, no, the viewer should not be involved. This is a cut and close situation. Like,
Yeah. Like that's
we don't need to be involved and quit making this a dramatic thing of a will he get out? Will he or won't he? Is this person involved? Is this person involved? Like, no, just present the facts and step
well, and
away.
that's what I hated about what we did for the Patreon when I did the like American Nightmare, where I was like, why did I have to go through the roller coaster of what everyone else went through? Like, present the facts to me because this is a documentary. I don't want to have to go through all the ups and downs that are a little bit ridiculous and not
Hmm.
okay in some areas. Like, you're being irresponsible.
Yeah.
And so that's, I didn't like when they were like, well, could they have killed the housekeeper? And I was like, it seems like the likelihood of that is
Yeah. It seems
pretty
like no, but
low. Um, and I felt like they did a pretty good job of like talking a little bit about the murder of Stephen Smith, who was an 18-year-old nursing student, where
mhm,
they were like, this is all rumor, like, but like it has been reopened after all of this went down. And like there has to be, some kind of look into it. And I was like, okay, well, good. At least they're not being like, could be them, could be
mhm,
anyone. So I thought they did a better job at that. But overall, interesting. I watched it on vacation because I downloaded all the episodes and it kept me
mhm,
watching all 6 episodes. So, um, I don't know. It's just wild to see like how often families like this can get away with stuff, and like especially a smaller town
mhm,
where they're like, oh, this was a family that was an institution and they did this and they did this and that stuff where it's like you were talking where they're like, oh, they had this like huge compound, all these things. But also like at events, the dad was like giving out alcohol to 14 to 16-year-olds. Like that's so blatantly irresponsible. I don't like what the hell?
mhm.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also just kind of hate the whole like I I'm from a small town where like certain families are huge and their last names mean a lot. And
Yeah.
these people get out of situations and into situations because of their last name. And if you're one of those people with that last name, it works out great.
Hmm.
But they can't seem to understand why things don't work out for them all the time, why certain people won't play the whole name game. And it's frustrating also as like somebody who's grown up around all of this who does not have like the right last name or a last name that is preferred to
Yep.
kind of witness all of these things happening. And there are a lot of things that happen where it's just like, well, that's BS,
Right.
honestly.
Yeah.
So I like a lot of that felt familiar, even though like hopefully not the level of crime that is happening in that family is happening in my own area, but like a lot of that felt familiar to me as far as like the family name game situation that happens in
Yeah.
small communities. And I just am really over that. And it kind of made me really bitter towards that family, honestly.
I mean, they were ridiculous. And like there also there was I also felt like there was a little bit of cousin Eddie. He was the one who the dad tried to hire for the assisted
Hmm.
suicide, and like he got charged with like some stuff. But I feel like that was the worst part of the documentary where they like really wanted to showcase how much of a little bit of like a redneck Eddie was. And I'm like, well, you know what? Like those people exist. And I think it's worse that
Also,
like
they all sounded like rednecks to me, but
yeah,
what do I
like
know?
I know, but he was just so like where he was like, "Well, I was shaking it and it sounded like it was pills, but I didn't know anything about that." I was like, "Well, obviously he did." Like,
Yeah,
I'm not saying he was a drug dealer, but he knew what was what and he knew what
right.
he was doing. So like, let's not give him this like specific edit where they're
No.
like, "What a dum dum," and I'm like, "No,
Yeah,
he was."
no,
So I
we're
don't know.
not falling for that.
I thought it was a relatively good true crime documentary out of all the ones I've seen, and I don't know why I'm on this certain Netflix kick, but it was definitely better than the American Nightmare
Hmm.
one. So, um, yeah, and then I watched the TV show Shetland, season 1 and 2. It
Okay,
is
what's that on?
it was
BritBox thing?
on library DVD shelves.
Okay. I was gonna say
Because
that's sounds like a British television
it
show.
is a British television show. I had actually watched season 1 a long time ago because I think for a while it was maybe on Netflix. It is on BritBox. But I remember season 1 really fondly, so I watched it and great time. Had a small spoiler, so skip this if you don't want to watch season 1 and 2 of a TV show that came out in 2014, but the first 3 killers are all women. I was like, well,
Hmm.
this seems pointed. Like, statistically speaking, that's usually not what happens. Why is it always women? And then the next one, I was like, look, if it's another woman, I'm kind of over the show. Like, I'm just like, you can't just always be like, you know what the twist is? It was a woman.
Maybe what they're trying to say is we've got it all wrong. That all of these
Well,
statistics that we thought we knew were wrong, and
it was
actually
just
all serial killers are women?
right.
What?
Well, it was just sad because like what I remembered from the show was the relationship with the head detective recently moved back to the Shetland area, so it's a lot more like isolated. There are a lot more like islands, so they have to travel, and they kind of show the representations of like what it would look like if a murder happened on an island that took like 20 minutes to get out there and like all this different stuff. And like the different social dynamics and things like that. So I thought that was really well done. It's originally based on novels by Anne Cleeves, but the head detective has just moved back to Shetland with his teenage daughter, but you find out that he is not her biological father. He married a woman who's like the biological father wasn't really like super in the picture, but like he is sort of in the picture. So when they move back, they start co-parenting the two dads because the mom has passed away. And I thought it was like a really good representation of like healthy masculinity where like there are certain times where one of them like approves her to go to a school trip and the other one doesn't, and he's like, look, I can't be the bad guy at all times, you have to be the bad guy too. And like they have like conversations about one of their marriages where he's like, look, you're doing this and it's not appropriate for our daughter, and I was always like, wow, that is really healthy. And there's like moments where they're like, how do you two know each other? And they're like, and the guy's like, oh, we're both, we both raised a daughter together, like he's her dad, I'm the father. Like I'm like, wow, that's really nice to see as early as 2014 that like you could actually have healthy representation of what that looks like. So um but then 3 murders were women, so and it was a
Hmm.
woman. So
I'll just keep
I
that in mind that it's always a woman.
it's always a woman. So
They're
um
sneaky.
they are sneaky sneaks. So
Sneaky,
I
childless cat ladies.
who deserve less votes because they don't have children.
How
Um,
dare they?
but I like this series a lot. I think it's a lot of fun and it's British, so like sometimes it'll go off the air, sometimes it'll come back. So it looks like the main Detective is only on for the first 7 seasons, and they just picked it up for like series 8, and it's a new person from then on. So um yeah, good time. Highly recommend for everyone. Um but yeah, that's a little bit of what we watched this weekend. And then, well, we will get into it, but I will say that I watched The Sixth Sense with my fiance, who did not know what The Sixth Sense was about and did
What?
not know the
What?
twist. Yeah.
He'd never
So,
seen it
so fun fact about my fiance, he worked at a movie theater for like 10
and has
plus
never seen
years,
any movies.
but sometimes he just won't know the plot of movies. So like he has no idea what the
Extremely
and that
popular
I've
ones.
mentioned this on the podcast before. He does not know the twist of Fight Club, and I can't wait to watch it with him. So he finds out the twist in Fight Club, but he did not know anything about The Sixth Sense. Like we walked into it and it was very funny. For those of you who have not seen The Sixth Sense, I'm about to ruin certain parts of it, or I'm about to ruin it. But like the twist is uh that Bruce Willis is dead the whole
Is
time.
dead.
And it
I
was
see dead
very
people,
yeah,
and
he's dead. So it was very funny because like watching it with him, he had no idea what was coming. And he would just be like, so Bruce Willis gets shot at the beginning and he goes, well, that was a pretty good place to get shot in. Like the other sides, that's instantly fatal, but he did get shot in a pretty good, he has a good chance. And I was like, okay, so maybe he knows. And then he kept watching and he kept going, I mean, this is just a really weird situation for a therapist to be in right now. Commenting on it, and I was like, "But you haven't guessed it yet." Then he was like, "Oh," so
I am
he had
shocked
no
that this
idea.
spoiler has not made it to him yet because
He knew the
that is an
line.
extremely popular, like quotable movie that people
So
in like mainstream talk about a lot.
he knew the line. I see dead people, but he had no idea what was coming from the Sixth Sense. So I don't know.
Interesting.
But then
Because
he's
there's even
shocked.
the meme.
But then he's shocked when I'm like, "Yeah, I've never seen War Games," and I'm like, "Well, one of those is a normal one."
I've never seen War Games. I don't.
Yeah, exactly. I had to watch it recently. So
I
that
also
was
haven't seen Fight Club, but I feel like I do know the
you
ending to this
have to
because
know the ending
I
to this.
feel like I Googled it
Yeah.
because I have so many movies where I just don't want to watch them because like especially horror movies where I'm just like, you know what, I am interested to know about Midsummer. You know what, I don't want to watch Midsummer. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
Google that and figure out what the plot is.
That's
And I know what happens in Midsummer now.
that's I
And
feel
I
like
think that's what happened to me with Fight Club.
you and I are two of very similar people where I'm like, yeah, I always know the twists in these because I looked it up beforehand because I was like, well, I've never seen Chinatown. I guess I'll read the plot. And then I
I
watched
feel like certain
Chinatown.
movies I'll go into blind, but like others I'm just like,
Yeah,
no.
there are certain movies I try to be like surprised by, but like I don't need to be surprised by The Sixth Sense, but apparently he just was never interested in that plot, so he never looked it up. My first M. Night Shyamalan movie, Shyamalama Ding Dong, was The Village, and I remember that was a bad movie. That is
Okay.
mostly of what I remember of that was the twist was stupid. So, you
Okay.
know, what you gonna do? They can't all be winners. But should we get into a book that we do think is a winner?
It
Bum
it was
bum.
good.
Summer nights.
It was a good one.
I still have to read the
Tell me
last
more,
third
tell me more.
by tomorrow because that's when we're recording the next episodes. We left off with Harry getting a picture of a man hanging out with some kids at Disney World.
Which
Uh
is weird.
I mean, it is an odd take. I also love the color like they're like, how can you tell Faye? Different colored hair. That's how you tell a Faye.
Which is a neat hiding technique now for the rest of this book series. Harry wants to portray someone else, dye his hair.
Oh, good. I did not know that. I haven't gone there yet. So,
No, I'm just throwing it out
oh,
there. I don't know if it
oh,
happens. I just
oh,
think
I
it
thought
could
it hadn't
happen.
happened. And I was just like, spoilers, Laura.
No,
Um,
that's not a spoiler. It's just maybe it is. I don't know. We'll find out.
so Harry is headed to Rule's funeral to kind of like check things out, which I laugh because like in my mind, I kept forgetting that like the summer nights, the nights are just like mortals. Because I was like,
Mhm.
why would this fairy have a funeral? And it's because he is a
He
mortal
died.
and he had other things going on. So he's gonna go scope the place out. And I said, dare I say, doing actual detective
I was gonna say this is
work?
like one of the first books in this series where the motivations have made sense and like the
Yeah.
things have made sense. And it's like, thank you for choosing the direction you should be going.
I know
Rather
it
than be like, you
was.
know what I'm gonna do? Go check out this garage on the east side of town that has these werewolves, and
where
maybe I can find
some
out about a loup-garou.
where
Like, what?
some redhead walked over and was like, "You should go see that garage," and he's like, "I guess I should go see that garage."
Okay,
Okay.
hot lady.
Um, we do learn a little bit about ogres. They are fey creatures. They're smart enough, and the guy he was up against was strong. The magic bounced right off of him, so he's dangerous.
Mhm.
He does walk into the funeral home and he doesn't really see any fey folk. I like this because he's like, they're not that good at hiding. Map did a pretty good job, but everyone else kind of suck us at it.
Mhm.
Um, but he does hear some voices coming from a backroom area. There are three voices. One is a deep woman's, one is a deep man named Ace, and one is a high-pitched man named Fix. And Fix is very nervous. They're talking about like Harry pretty much about
Yeah,
how
they're
he's
talking
working.
about him, and they're like, "Uh-oh, we need to move fast because the
I
wizard's
saw
here."
him. People die when they're around him. And Harry's sitting there like, I'm gonna go cry in my soup. Why would you say that out loud? You're not supposed to know that. And then they hightail it out of there, and Harry like cuts them off in the back alley, and he realizes that it's three-quarters of the kids he saw at Disney World.
Mhm.
Convenient. I put convenient in my notes. They hit him in the face, so Harry like starts asking them questions, and then the fix is like, he's hexing us, and they throw him in a trash can. Uh, and then all of a sudden, Billy shows up, and we found out that Harry called him like off page and asked him to bring a pizza.
Bring a pizza because who are we summoning? Toot toot.
Oh. Yeah, we also find out the kids are probably long gone, which is why Harry
Mhm.
explains not chasing after them, which is also a first for Harry, is explaining his reasoning.
Yeah, or just like not going off after somebody when you're badly injured. Like, oh wow, Harry
Shocking.
is growing.
Harry uses the pizza to call Toot Toot and his gang. They get caught while eating a pizza slice.
Also,
And
like his description is cute in this because he's wearing like a little pop cap for
okay,
a
this
hat
is
and he has a
my
toothpick sword, and I think that's cute.
so the little fairies are getting ready for a fairy war because they think something's a brewing between summer and winter courts,
Hmm.
and they keep using little army terminology, but it's wrong. So they
Yeah.
keep yelling like 10 huts, 10 huts. And I thought that was the cutest description in the world.
Well, because
Uh
isn't the situation where it's like they are like the wild fae and there's like a drawing to see
yeah.
which side they're being called to?
Yeah, and
Okay.
they're like hoping to get called to the winning side, or they're hoping to kind of like lay low until they go to the winning side, but
Hmm.
they're like getting ready for it. And so they just keep using improper because they learned it from like random TV shows, and they're just little fairies. So Harry asks to help find the like ladies of the Fae Court, the two younger queens, who we find out are named Maeve and Aurora. Toot is like, fine, yeah, I do owe you, and you always give me pizza. So he gets Elodie, pixie who owes him one, to take Harry in exchange for the whole pizza. And the way these fairies are described to be eating this pizza is gremlin-like, where they're like, they just keep eating until it's all gone and their
They
bellies are
are
full.
described like very animalistic almost. Like
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe their description.
And Toot Toot does say that the Fey ladies are in the city of Chicago. Convenient. One is in a hotel and one is in Undertown. And so Elodie takes Harry and Billy into Undertown. We find out that
Through the commuter
Undertown
tunnels.
through the commuter tunnels. I love that. I used to go to work through those.
I think this is
Uh,
such a great detail, honestly. Like, I love this whole Undertown concept and everything. And I have a note here where I'm like, this book flows so much better, and I
oh,
love
so
the
much better.
details.
Well, because like Elodie is a pixie who does not understand like how to get to a place as a human, so she just like takes them up and down towers. And
Yeah.
like Harry is like, this is exhausting.
Hmm.
And we find out that Undertown is like, so Chicago in this book, because it's not exactly factual, but it was built on swampland and it started sinking, and so they just started pushing buildings on top of it and pushing like the old buildings down below, and it created this undertown where lots of fae or like magical creatures can all congregate.
Hmm.
um And so, in all actuality, parts of that is true. Chicago River
Hmm.
kept flooding the city, so they ended up having to build it higher. So, a lot of first floors from older buildings are actually below the street because the city water, like, or the city roads were raised. So, it has some Chicago energy in it.
He's doing his homework.
I know. So they do go into commuter shops, and a feline creature named Grimalkin leads them to the winter fairies. And the winter fairies are
Because Grimalkin was sent by the High Lady,
yes,
right? Yeah.
yes, to come get them. And he's like, I'll take you there. And then Billy is like, he didn't promise to get us out of here, Harry. And Harry was like, I'm not going to show on my face that that was a mistake.
Details,
Um,
details.
and we find out that Faye can't lie, and they especially can't lie 3 times. So like Harry asked the Grimalkin, like, "Are you taking us to the High Lady? Are we in danger?" You know, the like.
Hmm.
But you had to be careful when you ask questions like that because it can be offensive to the Fae to
Heaven
make
forbid we
them
offend
tell.
anyone.
Heavens
In
to
the
Betsy,
name
which
of
will they think of next?
safety.
And so the winter court is having a party. It's like the
Hmm.
1940s. They're whooping it up like it's World War II, having a little cigarette and talking like this. And so Harry
So there's
told
like this
Billy,
weird moment where they're like watching it and everybody's dancing and the Winter Lords are dancing and then there's a soloist playing the trumpet who just
"Oh yeah,
collapses and then
yeah."
the Winter Lady like goes over and kisses him and I'm like, this is
Well, because it's
scary.
supposed to show like how evil the winter court is. Like it's supposed
I
to be kind of
know.
like horrific, where
It is.
all
I
of
didn't like it.
these musicians are like playing until they die because it was like their greatest wish. And it's supposed
Hmm.
to show like the winter court's willing to give you what you want, but it may not be a good idea. Um, and
So then
Harry,
Harry just like goes up and he's like, what do you know about the death of the summer night?
well, Harry also told Billy not to like drink or eat anything, and then Billy is like, "I want to eat something," and Harry's like, "No," and puts the food down. Like it's a
No,
lot of
not right now.
strangeness. And we find out that like the high fae are called like the Sedai, which I think we figured out
Hmm.
in the last section, but for context. And so Maeve shows up and she's dressed all in leather. Um, and so Harry is like, "What do you know?" Like you said, see? And she says that she will make a deal with Harry, and Harry knows that you're not supposed to make a deal with the Fae. And she's like, "Well, I can't get your person because Mab has that, but I could get your first child. Would you like to impregnate this wonderful lady walking up out of the water?" And it's a really pretty lady with green hair. And Harry is turned on.
He's like,
Uh,
I'm not gonna say no, but
and
I might want to do that, but I guess I'll say no. And
And
so then he
Maeve,
pours
well,
cold water
but
on himself too.
Maeve also offered herself. She was like, "Well, it could be me too. You drive a hard bargain, but I wouldn't say no, or both of us." And then, yeah, Harry opens up his pants, which
Yeah.
also you can pour water on yourself through jeans. I mean, you could do that, but like
He's
for,
that turned on that there's
but
no time to waste. He has to
he has to
open his
unzip
pants.
his jeans and dump cold water on them. And there Maeve is very frustrated, and she at that point the winter knight also comes in, and he is like being kind of a blowhard. He's just
Hmm.
doing some things, and she's like, "Oh yes, this is the winter knight." And Harry's like, "Wow, he's like young." um and he asks if he
His name
killed
is
Ronald
Slade, right?
Slate. And
Slate.
he asks if he killed Ronald Rule because again, that's like Harry's one trick. It's just walking up to people and being like, "Was it you?"
Be a better detective.
Harry is the best questioner.
He's like taking tips from Elliot Stabler.
And so Slate is like, "Yeah, I'm not that strong." And Harry is like, "But you're younger." The guy's like, "And what are you talking about?" Um, and so he starts getting like angry and
The wind's whipping
upset.
around and it's getting all
And
tense.
Maeve is like, "Calm him." And she like freezes the situation. They end up injecting him with heroin,
I was
which,
gonna say
wow.
I can't believe that they think heroin. I'm like, what?
And he's supposed to be like their prize knight. Like, why would you do that? And so um they kind of like make him exit the room. And Maeve is like, "Now back to our question." And Harry was like, no, I know it wasn't you, and I know it wasn't
Hmm.
Slate, because Slate is not batting 1,000, and you are not strong enough. Like, you had to take down Slate, and you barely got through it. So you're just not strong enough to take down Ronald, the likes of Ronald Rule. And she gets offended, and she tells them to get out. And so they leave, and like the door immediately disappears, and Billy's like, how do we get out of here? Um, and they get Elodie to come let them out. And as they're exiting, all of a sudden, Fix, Ace, and a woman who we find out
Meryl.
her name is Meryl. Which, too many M names. Come on, we have Mab, we have Maeve, now we have Meryl.
I
It's
feel
too many
like he
M.
does get into like kind of a pattern where it's like
Yeah,
they're all named J names in this one.
Dresden,
Jessica,
Benton.
Jen.
Yeah, like it's very. Then fix an ace. You
Hmm.
say, because we're dealing with the 1940s.
Yeah.
And so we find out that they're changelings, and because they have different colored hair, which means
Which
that
they're
they're
half mortal, half
half
fae.
fae, yes. And they were from the Winter Court, and they're trying to get them to like come to their side, but they don't like the Winter Court, because the Winter Court seems like a bad hang, because we just got back from there and it wasn't so great. So we know why they don't want to be a part of it.
Well, and also, isn't it mentioned that like her mother was sexually assaulted by a
Yes.
troll,
Yeah.
and they think that Slate stole
So,
Lily?
so the Winter Court is very bad. Because the girl was like, "Yeah, my dad was a troll. It wasn't great." And their other friend is missing, so she was in the photo, and they were all under Ronald Rule's protection, because Lily, the missing girl, was like Slate really wanted her, and they were worried because like Slate's a bad dude and a heroin addict, and like not f- fully helpful. Um and so Ronald was protecting them, but now that he's gone, there's less of protection. And so they want Harry to find her. And Harry's like, look, I can't double dip. This is pretty strenuous already. And the girl's like, I could pay you. And he's like, I did actually need money.
Well, you know what? If money's involved,
And,
maybe.
and she's giving him $1,000 up front. And then Harry immediately is like, but I'd feel bad using it. I'm like, Harry, pay your
Don't.
bills.
It's your job.
It's your job. It's literally your job. Um, And so they agree to try to help her. And she's like, well, do you think she's dead? And Harry's like, well, I hope not. And so Billy's kind of like, what are you going to do now, Harry?
I will say though, even though he is kind of becoming that guy,
The
he's the
sidekick.
best sidekick so
He's
far.
he's been the best one so far, because he's just there to hang and like
Yeah.
have Harry bounce ideas off of him, which is what we needed all along, it turns
And you know
out.
what? If we need a little muscle, he can strip down and turn into a werewolf in 2 seconds. So,
And so Harry, Billy's like, "What are you gonna do?" And he's like, "I gotta go talk to Murph." And Billy's like, "Can I help?" And he's like, "Well, you could call all of the mortuaries in Chicago and ask for a green-haired Jane Doe." And Billy's like, "That sounds like it's gonna suck." And he's like, "Well, welcome to the biz." Um, and so they head out, and then Harry gets to his car, and suddenly there's a body in there, and it's Elaine, and
and
she's
isn't
not.
this like the second time a woman who is injured like falls out of a vehicle? Because didn't that happen in the last book?
That did happen in the last book, yeah.
Why does this keep happening?
Because they just keep throwing themselves at Harry.
Quit getting into vehicles.
I don't think they're putting themselves there, Laura. I think
I
they're
think
getting a.
she did.
Oh, okay.
I
I
think
think they're.
Elaine did.
Usually I feel like they're getting attacked and someone's putting them there to like send a
I feel like
message.
Elaine made her way there. Like became injured and was like, ah, there's Harry's car.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough.
I can't I kind of feel like she wasn't just put there.
Okay, well then, Elaine, yeah, you should get out of cars then. But also, I feel like she was still attacked, not in the car. Like, I don't think
Oh
it
no, she's
happened right
definitely attacked.
there.
I just don't feel like the attacker put her in the car. I feel like she escaped and
uh,
then made it to was trying to
and
make it
then
to Harry.
she's like, "Take me to the Rothschild Hotel," and he's like, "Not to the summer court."
He's like, I'm gonna
And
take you to the hospital. And
And
she's
she's
like,
like,
and I'm like,
no,
finally,
they'll
something
find
logical.
me. So he agrees to take her, and Elodie like kind of shows him where to park, and then she like zips out of there because she had agreed to take him to the summer and winter court. And she's like, well, my job's done. And so then Harry goes to take her up there, and there's like a woman who has clay all around her. And she's like, I was just coming for more clay. Why don't you come up with me? And they go upstairs, and Harry is like taken to where they could potentially help her. Um, and a centaur like wants to rip Harry to shreds because he's
Hmm.
from the Winter Court. And then there's a High Sedai named Talos, who is like, I can kind of help her, but not really help her until the lady comes. And Harry's like, no, you have to help Elaine right now. And the guy's like, we'll see what I can do. And so they give
They offer
Harry
him a
human
sandwich and
food.
chips.
And they're like, look, it's human food. We don't really want to keep you here. You seem like a bad time. And he's like, okay, thank you. And so he starts eating. Um,
And
and he
Lily's
starts,
there, like, as a model,
yeah,
or
she
for some of
was a
the art.
model, but she's not there currently. It's just
Yeah.
like she had been there
Hmm.
because the summer court was giving her refuge. And he kind of like starts talking to the girl about Lily and about like how scared they are for her. And
The
then
one
he
who gave him food, and then he's like, wait a minute,
And then he's like,
you're the summer
you're
lady.
Aurora. And she's like, I am. And she kind of talks about how, like, he's not the typical pick for the Winter Court because they usually like darker, but he just seems wounded.
Well, and he
Um,
tries to say, like, right from the beginning, like, hey, like, I'm neutral party. Like, I'm
I'm just
not
trying to do
the,
my job.
yeah, I'm a free agent. I'm not for any side.
And she's like, well, your godmother is a teacher and guide, and she's as just as evil outside of Mab. Um, and he's just like, look, I just want you to help Elaine. Could you do that so I can leave? And she has a moment where she like makes him feel the pain that he's in and like touches him for the first time, and he hasn't been touched in a while. And he like starts crying and emoting, which of course has to be the summer's trip is like making Harry feel. And she's like, look, you could stay here. I could give you respite and like I'll help you. And he's like, no, I can't really do that because my life is on the line. Like I have to do this or the White Council will hand me over to the vampires. Um, and she's kind of like, okay, well, then the summer court's going to get weaker and we have to go to war. And this is just what's going to have to happen. And
Because
so
basically, it's like as the seasons change, the strength of the courts changes.
Harry is on a timeline to make sure that this gets solved before the Winter Court can
Summer's
take
height.
over. And so that they can like stop a war before it starts. And so Harry calls Murph and he's like, I need to see you real soon.
Meet
And
me
so
in
they
public at this
meet me.
Walmart Supercenter.
So they go to the Walmart Supercenter, which confused me because he was like, I went past the storefronts, and I'm like, are we at storefront time of Walmart?
I
Like,
have never seen a Walmart like surrounded by other
I mean, like they have
places,
like different things. Like you have like a
like right
vision
next to each other,
center. No, but you have like a vision center, and some of them like have a
but it's all
subway
part of
inside.
Walmart.
But it's all part of Walmart, so
I'm
that
picturing
confused
like
me.
when I think of storefronts, I think of like downtowns of places where there's multiple stores. And I'm like, I've never seen where it's like bookstore, Walmart,
Most
pharmacy.
Walmarts are freestanding, so I don't really know what Harry's
Yeah.
talking about here. So I figured he was talking about inside the building, like there were certain stores inside, but I don't know.
Okay.
So
Maybe because there's always like a bank
Harry,
and a vision center. Yeah.
yeah. So Harry sits down with Murph, and she brought him coffee from questionable locations in Walmart,
Hmm.
honestly. And he tells her everything. He finally tells
Yeah.
her everything. And my fiance at this point said, are you really happy that he's doing what you thought he should have done in the first novel? And I said, yes, thank you. So
This is what we wanted.
yeah, it's like Murphy actually being helpful and an actually helpful detective who
Hmm.
has something to say and is actually like detective
Well, and then
working.
he's honest with her about like, look, I don't think you should tell the other cops how this is going to go down because it's going to be dangerous for all of you. And it's she's like, okay, well, I need you to figure out the why. Like
Yeah,
that's what you need to do is like figure out the why of
why
what's
is this
happening.
happening? Because she asked, like, why were you shot at earlier in this
Mhm.
book when it was raining toads? Remember when that happened? I didn't. So thank you for reminding me, Murphy. And she talks about the fact that like he kind of describes the woman and she's like, so I like looked into some things. And it turns out like there were two armed robberies in the past 3 days, and that's not out of in like Cleveland and in Indianapolis, but um usually it had the same MO where someone was grabbed from the scene, abducted, and then video security broke down just as the robbery started. And it was a woman. So he's like, huh, that sounds like
They're,
the woman who attacked me. And
they're thinking it
sh
might be like a ghoul
yeah,
that was
who
hired by the vampires.
and ghouls are like just like evil demons for hire pretty much.
Yeah.
And so they're talking through this, they're talking through the summer girl, the winter girl, why someone was attacked. And they're kind of doing actual detecting. Shocking,
Yes.
I know. Um, and he he says that like all of a sudden there's this mist that starts coming
Yeah,
through
because
the
they're on their
store.
way out and
Yeah.
they see this fog and he's like, "Oh, I think it's a mind fog," which is a cool concept.
Yes. And the second it touches you, you're kind of down for the count.
Hmm.
You can't do anything about it. And so, but it's illegal. And Murphy goes, illegal? Says who? And he says the laws of magic, which is great line reading. Love it so much. Thank you for it. And so they start running, trying to get away from it. And they're kind of surrounded on all sides. So, and then like the
They
ogre is
go
popping
into
out.
the garden center.
So they, but like Harry puts them in salt to keep the like mist from getting to them too much until he can put a shield on Murphy, which
Hmm.
again, plot structure makes sense. Like we need to
Well, and the
pause,
other
we need
thing
to
too
reassess.
that's
Like
happening, like some of the customers and employees are being affected by this as well.
mhm.
So it's not one of those things where it's just like everyone's going about their business and suddenly the whole place was empty and it's just Murphy and Dresden in there. So it's like, oh no, this is actually affecting other people. I
People are
like that
getting
we have,
knocked out, they're staring
yes.
blackly, like there's actual stakes to this.
And the
And
ghoul is there,
yes, and the
big
ghoul is
scary
there,
monster.
and Harry's trying to fight her, and all of a sudden the ogre shows up. And oh, the ghoul Murphy just guns down, like takes
Hmm.
all of the gun and just like empties clips into it.
Hmm.
Um, and so she kind of like goes away, and Murph is like, "Is she dead?" And Harry's like, for now, sort of. She's taken care of. So they have to take down the ogre. Murphy's actually helping during this, where she's like taking him out with certain things, keeping them distracted. And Harry runs away from the ogre and he puts a bag of marbles on the ground to make
Hmm.
the ogre fall, which
Yep.
later injures Murphy and they run back into each other. And she was like, that ogre left marbles on the ground. And Harry's like, actually, that was me. And she was like, what is this, Looney Tune? Like, what were you doing? You're a
Well, because
cartoon
doesn't
character.
there's something where like gasoline is shot at the ogre, I want to say.
So that's how they end up like getting him injured is they pour
Okay.
gasoline all over him and light him on fire.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yep.
And Murphy is like there to help. She also like takes him out with uh like some clippers and like saw, and she's like
Yeah, she's got
getting
a
stuff.
chainsaw.
She's got a chainsaw. She's taking things out. There's also randomly like like a garden monster that pops up out of nowhere
Hmm.
and is attacking Harry. And so Harry has to like fight that off. He's fighting off the ogre. He's doing a lot of work on this. And Murph just like pops up to help him, but she hurt her knee. So at one point he has to like run around, get his old car. It's leaking things everywhere. There's suddenly frost on the windshield. Like someone wants him dead. And at one point the like green plant tells him he's putting his nose into business that isn't his and he should like hightail it out
Isn't
of
this the
there.
chlorophene is what it's called?
Yeah, a chlorofiend,
Yeah,
which is
because
what
that's the
Bob
thing
called
that's like
it.
the branch monster thing that's like
Yes.
coming around them.
And so they're able to kind of that's when Murph like takes the chainsaw to that and they get
Yeah.
out and they have to like start running. Um and so they finally drive, they escape this like hellhole of a
Hmm.
Walmart, and then they band back together at Billy's. And Billy's kind of like, well, that's
The
too much destruction for them to believe. And Harry's
the
like,
alphas are back.
people will just say it's a gas leak. No one wants to believe that something more happened, Billy. Like it happens all the time. Um,
I also love how Murphy's like, I did all the work back there at the Walmart.
she was like, you were a Looney Tunes character. And she says like Karen Murphy 3, Dresden 0, and everyone cheered. So Harry's like, hey, Murph, like someone needs to take you back to your house. They're gonna be muscle for you. You're injured, like get out while you still can. And so she's like, okay, but don't leave me out of this. And he's like, of course, you know too much. And so Harry eats some more pizza. He
He's
kind of
eating
has,
pizza on the balcony. I
and
I love
he
that there's like so much pizza callbacks and there's like, we love pizza in Chicago.
we do love pizza in Chicago. And he runs into Meryl, who is with the Alphas now, because he sent her over to them to like keep them safe pretty much.
Hmm.
Um, and
And
she
she's
kind of
also
goes,
explaining like what it's like to be a changeling, and she's like, "Yeah, I threw a tractor at my brother once," and I'm like,
but I
"What?"
also saved a brother and carried him 12 miles. And like, I'm half troll, so I can't control my anger. So like, it's hard. Um, And she's like, I like it's just really hard to be in this, and I just need to do what I need to do, and I just want to find Lily. And Harry is like, I understand. They have like a nice heart to heart over where he finds out like her stakes in these friendships and like losing Rule. And then he just has a moment of like, well, I have to do a rundown of everyone who wants to kill me, including the Tigress, the Red Court, this person who's after me, and I just don't know what's going to happen. And all of a sudden,
But he
there's a
has an
plant monster.
epiphany though, where he's like thinking about why the chlorophene was killed by Murphy, and he's like, that doesn't make sense. And he's like, it's a construct because
Hmm.
Murphy isn't attached to the fairy quartz, so
Right.
she couldn't be killed and couldn't get rid of it.
Hmm. And Harry is like, oh, so someone sent it after me because of all these court things.
Hmm.
And it has to be like one of the queens or, someone who is very attached to the court because they had those rules in placed on them. But all of a
And then
sudden,
like
there's a
twisters
huge,
are happening all
yeah,
over the
twisters are
place.
happening over Cook County, and there's a tropical front that is like in Gulf of
They're telling everybody to
Mexico, but
shelter
it,
in place.
mhm. And Harry's like, look, and Billy's like, man, these aren't natural, are they? And I'm like, yeah, Billy, what'd you think? Yeah, totally natural. And Harry's like, well, it means we're running out of time. And that's the end of the next section.
Was
So
that through
that's
what
through
chapter?
22,
Through
through
22? Okay.
22. So yeah, we hit 22 because there's 34 chapters, and that is all I've
Gotcha.
read. So we can't go further.
Okay. I didn't know if we were doing 23. I was just starting to look at my notes for 23, so I will stop.
Stop now. Stop right there. Thank you very much. Sorry. All right. Well, this is a great book so far. I have not finished it yet because I
I
like
really like
being
this book.
clear. But I think it's so much better. You're just so right. The plot points are there, the flow is there. You feel the stakes and you feel like why people are mad at Harry and like
Hmm.
what's going on. So I really
Yeah,
like this.
I really think that we're that like I know we said previously like, oh, this is the book where things start to change in terms of the series, but I really want the disclaimer from Jim Butcher in the audiobook in this one where he just like says at the beginning like,
It's
guys,
where the audio
this
gets
one's
good.
good. This
Good.
one's good.
Let's hope that's coming down the pipelines.
I mean, maybe if we talk to him someday, we can suggest that, like, hey, Jim, if you could, at the beginning of the
Hey,
audiobook,
brother.
say, hello, this is me, Jim Butcher. This is the first good book.
That would be very helpful. Thank you very much.
But yeah, definite shift. And this one, like the other three were romps. I mean, the third one, not so much. That one had a lot of downer moments.
Yeah.
But the other two were romps, but they had so many like disconnects in terms of like what was happening between the different plot lines and like trying to even just build the world. And this one, I guess we already know what the world is. It's established, so there's not as much of
Yeah,
that that
even
needs to
the
happen here.
explanations feel better. Like it just
Yes, like because we still are technically building all these fairy courts and everything,
right.
and this is so much better.
I agree. I just think it's a much better and much more rounded book. So
Hmm.
can't recommend this
Absolutely.
book enough. The rest of them kind of feel like big old bummers comparatively, but
Yeah,
we're
like
enjoying ourselves.
this one, if we would have started the series, like we previously right before we recorded, we were talking to an author who said like, "Oh, yeah, I love Dresden Files. Like I think that people should jump in at book whatever." I was
6.
like 6. And I'm like, "What?" And so they, a lot of people are apparently just jumping in at certain points. And I think you can do that and be
Yeah.
okay with this series, but it is more interesting from the standpoint of seeing how the writing has changed because what a glow up. Like, in what probably like a year's time or something, Jim Butcher has a fantastic glow up in terms of
Hmm.
flow and consistency and plot.
I will say I'm glad we're stopping at book 6 and taking a break because it seems like book 7 is where they start being over 500 pages.
Oh no.
And I'm not looking forward to that. But I am enjoying this journey with this book.
Yeah, summer night, and it is summertime, so it's perfect
It
for,
is. It's so hot. It's
yeah,
summer
we are
night.
sweating and it's perfect.
And book 5 is only 378 pages. Great
Perfect.
news.
Even better.
Um, All right, but thank you guys so much for joining us. We hope you're enjoying
Yeah.
so far. Make
Thanks for
sure you
listening.
are following us on all the social platforms at OWWR Pod.
We're on
I
all
need
the
to get our
socials.
tickety talk back up again because I've been a little bit slacking there, but make sure you're following along there as well, where we are trying to post fun clips.
And
Also,
I'm
make
over
sure
on Blue Sky and I need to be more active over there. So if anybody wants to chat about our episodes over on Blue Sky, hit me up because
hit Laura up at my
I'm trying to
pod.
use that one more.
Yeah. And check out our pod, owrpod.com for all of our reading updates. We have some great bonus content coming your way, so check it out over there. And make sure that you're rating, reviewing, and subscribing. This is a great way to get more people to the podcast. We have gotten a few upswings, but and we appreciate everyone who's been with us for the long journey, but we always want to welcome new people to the podcast. So make sure
Yeah.
that you're rating, reviewing, subscribing, and recommending us to others. We really appreciate all of your work.
Yeah.
Join us on Discord, join us on Patreon, do all the things. We really appreciate everything
Yeah. We
everyone's been
appreciate you for
doing.
listening. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here.
Yes, and have a wonderful day. Ba-dum, bum, ba-dum, bum. Signing off.
Bye.